across departments. It starts small and it's meant to grow and encompass other departments as collaboration becomes acculturated throughout departments. As you'll recall, public health set the foundation for this initiative, and we plan on including them in the future more heavily. And we've also contacted the courts, and we're working with them to find out how we can include them as well, and as you directed at your board workshop. So this plan is really a starting point on our path of making systemic changes involving all departments. Given the space and time, we think that we can achieve our desired outcome for better and more effective services. We created a framework for this initiative that has 3 parts. The first is branding, which involves a change in emphasis to healthy youth development. The second is systems, which involves looking at business practices. In this case, one example would be data sharing. And the third item is really pilot projects, and that's what your RBA sets out for you in very general terms, are the initiative pilot projects that involve several different departments. And individual department heads are here this morning and can answer specific questions that you may have about their particular initiatives. We'll be moving forward throughout the next 6 months. We plan to update you again in June of 2011. And we're happy to take any questions you may have.
Commissioner Rettman.
Madam Chair, I did find this a little bit intriguing, and I want to ask 2 questions specifically to data sharing. I always respect people's privacy, and one of the things that, whether you like HIPAA or not, it does guarantee people the right to choose. In one of the documents earlier today, I believe public housing says, we will get in writing from the citizen if we can share this information. In both B, second bullet point, and under data sharing on the top of page 2, the other one is on handwritten page 1, is when you talk about the data sharing and privacy issues, are you including how to allow the citizen to opt in and out of those types of things? Is that part of it? Or is it, because it just says we'll experiment with sharing data on clients, but it talked about the workers in either juvenile division or child and family services division of community human services. Are you working on that?
Chair Reinhardt, Commissioner Rettman, we will follow all statutes regarding HIPAA and all data.
Well, not just HIPAA. I'm not just talking privacy. I'm talking privacy.
And privacy rules. And I ask Carol to speak more broadly to that.
Carol Roberts, Community Corrections. Madam Chair, Commissioners, County Manager, it is envisioned that anyone for whom we are seeking information would sign a release so that we could get that information. That would be a prerequisite at stage 1, and it would be a prerequisite if we went forward and were able to do something in an automated environment.
So, Madam Chair, may I? If they did not sign the release, then it would not be shared, but they still could obtain.
We're talking about phase 1 at this point. If you don't sign, you don't get the information, basically.
The departments don't get the information.
That's correct.
But it doesn't curtail anyone from accessing services that they're...
No, it does not.
Okay. So
the purpose of getting the information, Commissioner Rettman, would be to have a better understanding of the case, the family, the environment to provide better service. It is in fact a loss to the client when they don't do it, but it does not preclude them from getting services.
Madam Chair, let me be very clear. When I was out on the streets working, I would get people in housing. For 10 years I was working in housing, and what? Geez, but I would do a lot of home visits and things like this, and I would literally write it up, and give them a copy and things like that. So because I do think it helps, but there are some individuals that I know that really want to choose whom they give that information to. And I always respect that. And I just always believe that the first part of democracy is privacy and their rights and things like that. So I always try and look at that, even though I know exactly the purpose of it is to give them a better outcome and better options. That is absolute, but some of the times we don't make that clear either.
Commissioner Rittman, I think we're on the same page on this.
Perfect. Thank you.
Commissioner McDonough.
Thanks, Madam Chair. I have a quick question on the pilot project Youth Works, and it's identified that there's no funding and it's not going to go forward. Back page. I just was wondering if there was kind of a budget number attached to this, if we're that far along, and maybe we've started to identify potential funding sources. I think this is I like this piece of this.
I'd like to ask Greg Mack to speak to that.
Madam Chair, Commissioner McDonough, we have talked with the Minnesota Conservation Corps and some of the work that they're doing currently with the City of St. Paul, exploring opportunities through workforce solutions for maybe some youth employment. Also looking at potential funding through the Legacy program, where if you can focus on environmental projects, we may be able to have a more sustainable kind of a program. The concept that we discussed here is really two approaches. One is to deal with youth that may be involved in, say, Boys Totem Town and have an opportunity to work in the Battle Creek area on conservation-related projects using the Minnesota Conservation Corps as a conduit for that. Then the other approach would be to look at youth that are not involved in one of our institutional environments, but to have opportunities for after school and weekend work that's constructive and teaches some environmental ethic, again with the Conservation Corps as the base. We're exploring that. We have not pinned down the specific funding.
Madam Chair, and I'm glad to hear that we're exploring it, and I would encourage us to really flush this out. I'm very familiar with the Minnesota Conservation Corps, and I've seen them with the work they do with youth, and I think this is a really good fit for what we're trying to do here. So hopefully Legacy funding is a match and we can maybe get something in place. One of these groups actually works out of the local rec center where I do a lot of volunteering, and I see them in action all the time, and they're just doing great work with the kids.
Commissioner Carter. Commissioner Carter.
I would really appreciate just a reiteration of the envisioned phases of this work. I know that some of the work is going to be reported on again in 6 months. There's some projects that indicate 12 months of activity, such as the workforce solutions classes for youth, the delinquency to work, and others that indicate 24 months of work. Can you tell me again what that phasing looks like that is envisioned for this work, the internally focused work, and how I hear you saying this does not supplant other efforts. Indeed, there are other collaboratives that are outside of the county that we're working with, some that are inside of the county that these need to link integrally with as well, such as the Suburban Family Collaborative, the Children's Mental Health Collaborative, the Children's Collaborative. And I'm just wondering if you envision a process by which you all are intending to make those connections. The phases and the processes for connecting.
Chair Reinhardt, Commissioner Carter, I think that there's a couple of thoughts here. One is that this is really more of an internal focus to try and make sure that we're as county departments collaborating and sharing information across department boundaries to ensure that our work is more effective. And as an outgrowth of that work, I think that these external collaborative projects that the county is committed to will be strengthened by that. And so there is a relationship between this effort and those external collaborative efforts. But at this point, really what we're trying to do is work internally to ensure that we're being maximally effective. And I think then that will feed into our collaborative efforts countywide.
And so when you say at this particular phase, you're really talking about the timing today.
Right.
You're not envisioning a phasing of this work that you can describe at this point.
Well, I think that one of the challenges, of course, in anything like this is to pin down an exact date. But I think we're looking at the next 2 years. Some things will happen rather quickly in that list of initiatives. Some things will take longer to develop. What we hope to do in June is to give you kind of a very brief update about where are we at in achieving those goals. And I'm happy to say that I think the departments that have been involved in this are very committed to making sure that these things go forward because they have chosen things intentionally to be achievable. And so we think that's the best way to have a win-win in this situation where we're making the county more effective in terms of the services we're providing. So I would say 6 to 24 months is that time period where we're looking at implementing these initiatives, at least getting them started, and then we'll be able to report back to you and hopefully see some changes and obviously see some impact with our collaborative partners.
Certainly makes sense. I would also request that, and I'm sure you're thinking of this as well, you share with us at those update points the manners in which this work is impacting the work with those other partners.
We certainly will. Thank you.
Commissioner Parker.
Well, Madam Chair, Commissioner Carter just expressed my concern about integrating with our partners in the community. And I know that first of all, I want to say that I think that this initiative is really important that we do this, and it's very appropriate that we do this internally. But I do think that there will be lots of interest in the community about what we're doing and what changes we're making. So we need to make sure we have communication about that. The other thing that I wanted to mention, I really like the idea of the Youth Advisory Board, and I was wondering if you have given some thought to how we will be taking applications or how those appointments will be made. And I'm thinking specifically about some high school students who have already really expressed an interest in county government through their projects in school and whatnot. And I think that that there are some students who would be really interested in this.
Commissioner Reinhardt, I'm sorry, Chair Reinhardt, Commissioner Parker, I'd like to ask Monty to answer those questions.
Commissioner Parker, we have not given in-depth thought to that. This idea came from initial thought of those of us in Human Services wanted a youth advisory board relative to the child protection system and foster care system. When we started talking about it in the context of the at-risk youth group, then the issue got larger and we started thinking more broadly. And so at this point, we hadn't delineated how we were going to choose people because we wanted to talk to essentially our new partners in the other agencies. So I appreciate the suggestion that you've offered.
Commissioner Redmond has a comment on this.
Well, no, I have a question, because I think I see Patricia Brady back there, is if I recall correctly, the Workforce Solutions has a very dynamic, I call them dynamic because I honestly do believe that they have seriously looked at all of the projects, the work, they make all of the, have you thought of including them as part of that?
As one of the partners we still need to talk to, yes, Commissioner.
Okay, well, because I mean, that already exists, and it has a process of getting folks involved, and Commissioner McDonough and Commissioner Parker have been more the workforce type of solutions folks, but if I recall correctly, that is a mandated part of, or at least, Tricia, help me here. Am I remembering this correctly? Is that that's something that either was mandated under the legislation, or at least we made an overt decision to have that youth group critically involved?
Yes, ma'am. Patricia Brady, Workforce Solutions Director. Madam Chair, Commissioners, we do have a youth council that is mandated. It's an arm of the WIB. It is not a committee of the WIB. It is an arm of the WIB, and their oversight is around youth activities in Ramsey County. We have a very vibrant youth program as well, which we call Youth Lead, and it has connections throughout the community with various community community-based organizations. And we sort of set the tone and the strategy with the oversight from the Youth Council, and then our community-based organizations carry that out. So we serve many youth and would be very happy to be a partner here and would have access to some of those young people who could talk to us about it. So we're serving at-risk youth there. We're serving young people that are aging out of foster care.